in Selenium, or what is actually exception we have learned in Java?
It is the event occurs during running the program or execution of the program. It is a logical mistake made by developer or programmer.
Okay, so exception is nothing but a interrupt, right? So which you are not expecting, and because of that interrupt, your program terminates, you know, in between, right? And once it terminates, that then I mean, as in like you won't get anything on the console. It's just an exception or error you get on the console, right? And we have seen multiple exceptions in Java, right? So arithmetic exception, and then compile time exception, runtime exceptions, right? So compile time exceptions are nothing but like those will be, you know, while before, you know, running your, before executing a program, those exceptions will come, and because of that, your program will not compile, and that you have to handle immediately, right? Using try catch or using throws keyword. And runtime exceptions are mostly because of the logical error or any mistake which is made by a developer or any of the programmer. Those exceptions will come, the runtime exceptions, right? We have seen multiple exceptions category also, right? Arithmetic exception, array and is out of bound, number format exception, null pointer exception, etc. are the runtime exceptions. So on the same note, we do get exceptions in Selenium also. So the concept of exception is same. It's just we do get couple of exceptions, and you need to know how to resolve those exceptions, right? So there are some exceptions, commonly occurred exceptions, which you can think of, like how can I handle those exceptions, and what are the scenarios wherein those exceptions will occur, right? So handling the exception is again same like you will have to resolve the exception if it is a runtime exception, rather than using try catch or throws keyword. So handling exception is nothing but like you will have to handle as in you have to resolve those exceptions. So if there is a issue with the locators, the Selenium is not able to find the particular element using the given locator, you have to change the locator strategy. It's not like you can handle that using try catch. So until it is not finding, then also your program might not terminate, but it would not complete your scripts also, right? You have to resolve the exceptions. So first is you have to resolve the exception in most of the Selenium cases. Then you have to you can use try catch, right? Or you can use throws keyword, right? So those are secondary and third options, I would say, in case of Selenium exceptions. Throws keyword, right? So resolving exception is something which is very much required here, right? So what exception we have seen mostly, guys, do you remember any exception? We have seen no such element exception, right? Every time we see no such element exception. Yeah, and that occurs when the element is not, could not be found. If an element could not be found, that time you get no such element exception. And how to handle, we are not, if we are getting no such element exception, we are not enclosing that statement within try catch, or we are not using throws keyword, right? We are trying to look for alternates to resolve that exception, right? Either by changing the locator strategy, or by putting some implicit wait. If element is taking time to load into the web page, we are using the implicit wait or any other waiting strategy, right? So locator strategy, or by using waits, we can handle that, right? Or wait, we have to use our waits also. So your application gets enough time, or the web element get enough time to load on a web page before the Selenium throws an exception, right? So on the same note, we get other exceptions also, like no such frame exception. If there is a you are trying to look for a frame using the syntax whatever we have learned, like by giving the index number or by giving the frame name. If that frame is not found, then you will get no such frame exception. And in case of alert also, if you are looking for any alert and that alert is not present, you will get no alert present exception. So these are the common exceptions which occurs mostly with the web elements. No such window exception in case of you are trying to switch to any other new window, and that time the new window is not visible. So that time you will get no such window exception. One more common exception is timeout exception, right? Which occurs when the time is out and your web driver is not able to load the the requested URL, right? And we get web driver exception. That is also quite common. Web driver exception. When do you get web driver exception? Can you tell me some scenario where you can get web driver exception?
When your local drivers, when your local window driver is outdated than the driver which has been there for new release.
Okay, I will give you one scenario
would-
here. Let's say I am right after the driver.get, and here http www.google.com, and then I am closing my browser driver. And then again, if I am trying to locate anything, driver.navigate dot to, and this time let's say I'm looking facebook.com. What will happen here? I have closed my driver and then I'm trying to locate I'm trying to navigate to this new URL. Can you tell me what will happen on the console?
There would be exception because since we closed it, we are trying to navigate again, and then that won't
No
work.
such an exception. So there is no such exception. No such an exception. We do get web driver exception here, right? So these are the web driver. There could be a web driver exception also because web driver is closed and you are trying to navigate to this URL using the driver, right, which is already closed. So you get no such an exception or web driver exception. Right.
One more thing, I just wanted to confirm when versions are different. Like as I said, in local system we have kept one exe file, right? And if that is differing from actual upgraded version of the Chrome driver, then also we get that exception.
Then also we can get we can get the exception. Okay.
So that is
no such exception, web driver exception, no such session exception. Okay, one more common exception we get is stale element reference exception, and they do ask separately reference exception. Element is stale or element is no more present on the DOM. That time we get this stale element reference exception. We will see that going forward, but stale as in let's say you are looking for any element here on a web page. Let's say on this web page I am looking for this data, flipkart.com or Flipkart or any link, right? So when I loaded this web page, I located that element. I could locate that element, or maybe after some time, after 5 seconds or so, that element is no more visible on the DOM structure and you are locating that element again, right? So since that element was there earlier and now it is no more visible on the DOM, you will not get no such element exception because earlier it was there, right? So that time you get no stale element reference exception. So element is stale, element is no more visible on the DOM structure, right? So how can I handle that? I will have to use the waits proper. I will have to use WebDriver waits there to handle this exception. WebDriver wait to handle this exception. They especially asked, the interviewer asked about this exception, how wide and what scenarios you can get this exception, or how to handle this exception, right? So this element was present now, but after, let's say, after a page refresh or after some time, this element got gone from the DOM structure. And now if I'm trying to locate this element again, I will not get no such element exception. I will get stale element reference exception. So element is staled from the current DOM, or you can say the element is detached from the current DOM. Detached from the current DOM, which might come after some time, but at the point you are trying to locate that element is not there in the DOM. Okay, likewise we can get invalid argument exception. Invalid argument exception also we have seen couple of times. Invalid argument exception or illegal state exception, right? Satara, you were getting illegal state exception. What else? What other exception we get? Element not visible exception. Then we get element not selectable exception. Okay, so this type of exception will occur when the element is present on the DOM, but you cannot be able to select that. Okay, so element is there on the DOM, but it is not selectable. That time you will get, I mean, it is not, Selenium is not able to interact with that element. So in that case, you get element not selectable exception. Okay, what else? Element click intercepted exception. This exception also we get. Element click intercepted exception. Okay, and that exception you get when element is not clickable actually. So the command may not be completed as the element receiving the event is concealing the element which was requested clicked.
Maybe that is not enabled.
Yeah, might be the element is not enabled, or at this point in time your WebDriver cannot click on that element.
Yeah.
Other exception which is again quite you might see in your Selenium scripting is element not interactable is exception. Okay, all are runtime exceptions, and so this also occurs when element is present on the DOM, but you cannot interact with that element. Okay, so I think these are the common exceptions which you get, and handling is like you will have to resolve by putting the proper weight. Okay, so that is the first thing, and you will have to use your locating strategy properly. That is the other way. We should not use try, catch, or throws keyword to handle these exceptions. Yeah, so as and when we will be getting these exceptions, we will try